Well, there's absolutely no doubt that low heart rate training is trending. Well, it doesn't seem to matter where we look at the moment, whether it's here on YouTube or in running magazines or listening to running podcasts. One thing that I've heard more than ever recently is about the benefits of low heart rate training for your running. Now, if you don't know what low heart rate training is, think of it as aerobic training or a slower, longer style of training. It's also known as zone 2 training, and there's no surprise that people have got so many benefits of this style of training to talk about. But today, I want to take a minute to have a look at not only the benefits, but ask some questions about whether or not it's beneficial for every style of training, for every athlete running at every distance. You might be surprised with what we come up with. Let's have a look. Now, before we get into it, I think it's important to recognize when something is trending, when something is popular, when people are excited about something, it's often the most difficult time to pull up and say, okay, is there anything about whatever it is that we're talking about here that may not be beneficial for me and the style of training that I'm trying to do? Now, as we mentioned, low heart rate training, zone 2 training, or aerobic training, it has a whole heap of benefits. In fact, some of the best benefits to this style of training is for brand new athletes who are simply trying to increase how far they can run without being so tired. Zone 2 training is an excellent way to build your aerobic capacity, meaning making it easier for you to run for a longer period of time without wasting so much energy. It's a great opportunity for your body to get used to transporting oxygen around. It's great for your aerobic system to develop its ability to help you stay out there for longer. In fact, as a brand new distance runner, I would say that this form of training could well be the most important element of your training week. For more experienced runners, low heart rate training is a great way to recover in between more difficult sessions. In fact, it's a great opportunity to get out there and allow blood to flow through your muscles as you move around slowly, helping you flush out any lactic acid and also helping you recover between more difficult sessions. This approach to low heart rate training can be a great benefit to the other things that we're including in our training program. More than that, it's an awesome opportunity to use as a recovery run. If you are more established in the sport of distance running and you're just looking for an opportunity to develop your aerobic strength, aerobic capacity, or just get out there for a nice morning in the sun, what better way to do it than low heart rate training? I mean, the beauty of this style of training is that you can do it for a long period of time, and the more you get used to it, the easier again it is to keep on going for a long period of time. This is the ultimate style of training for anyone who is just looking to run slow for long distances. In fact, you'll see so many Harrier style athletes out there who can run forever and ever and ever, and you ask them to sprint and they can't quite do it because they've become so accustomed to running at this zone 2 level pace that the idea of sprinting is foreign not only to their legs but to their aerobic system. Which leads me to a couple of questions that I think need to be asked or at least discussed in and around low heart rate training. Now, bear with me because I know it's controversial to ask questions around this style of training at the moment, but I think it's important that we establish what some pitfalls or some endpoints to this style of training may be. Now, if you're new to the sport, I would encourage you, as I said, to make this a regular part of your training routine. In fact, I would encourage you maybe 4 out of every 5 sessions to be this style of training. We'll get into that in a minute. But for now, let's talk about a couple of pitfalls around low heart rate training. Now, obviously, while it's great for developing an aerobic base and great for helping beginner athletes get comfortable running further and further distances, it does have its limitations when it comes to the improvement of the speed that you're able to run. Like I mentioned, with that Harrier style runner, they can run forever and ever and ever. But if you're looking at actually increasing the pace that you run, say you're training for a 1500, 5K half marathon, even a marathon, it's very important that we don't get stuck in this one pace, monotonous rhythm, because then all of a sudden, when we're required to run a little bit faster than what we have been running in order to try and hit the times that we would like to hit for the distances that we're focused on, our body doesn't have the ability to do that. So while this is great at getting us to a point, there is also a plateau where you can fall off the edge, and while your aerobic capacity is great, your speed endurance might be limited. So what we do at Relaxed Running with the athletes that we work with, we're very careful to establish a routine in which our athletes perhaps 80% of the time, go out and they run at zone 2 heart rate. Low heart rate effort is a huge part of the foundation of their training. But so they don't get caught in this Harrier style approach to running, and so we can tick over the legs at a faster pace according to the distance that they're training for, we also inject sessions like hills and track workouts and intervals and tempo and threshold work to make sure that not only is their body getting an extra boost, an extra workout beyond what you're going to get with zone 2 heart rate training, but also so that their mind and body are ready when it comes to needing to run faster on race day. Now, depending on the kind of athlete you are, the distance that you're running, how long you've been a part of the sport, your injury history, it's going to dictate exactly what these sessions look like. The 80-20 principle is a little bit of a guide. For some athletes, we prefer a little bit more faster work. For some athletes, we prefer a little bit more aerobic work. If you wanted to jump over to Relaxed Running and have a look at our coaching packages to see whether we can help guide you towards whatever it is that you're training for, I've linked our coaching page in the description for you below, where you and I can have a chat about how we may be able to best structure your training plan for what it is that you're training for. But for now, let's have a look at another area of low heart rate training that is often ignored during all the hype. Now, we touched on this briefly, but the lack of variability, not only in pace, but in the excitement of a training structure. If you go out there every single day and you're just running at the same slow pace, it gets monotonous, it gets boring, it gets a little bit dull. What's nice for your mind when you're out there running is actually being able to look forward to either a race or a more intense training session. So if you're training 5 days a week, a lot of the athletes that we're working with might do a harder, faster session on a Thursday. That's almost like a measuring gauge to see how their performance over the harder, faster work is actually going. You don't want to get caught in the monotony of one-paced running because, first of all, for your physical performance, as we've touched on, not very exciting, but also for the mental joy that you get from the sport, not very exciting. You want a nice little complementary training system taking place where you're hitting the low heart rate training, you're hitting the faster work together with consistency and time. That makes you a pretty powerful package, and one which is hard to break down. If you can maintain that structure for 6 weeks and above, you're going to start to see some rapid improvements, not only in the distance that you can run, but also in the speed that you can run those distances. Now, what low heart rate training also doesn't take into consideration is the individual athlete's needs. Every single athlete on the planet has slightly different needs. It doesn't matter whether you're training for a marathon. Some athletes like to run 100 miles a week and do 2 sessions within that. Some athletes seem to function better off less miles with a couple more sessions within that. We need to talk about what the best fit for you is. So while it's all good and well for people to say, hey, you're going to be able to run further and it's going to feel easier with low heart rate training, don't fall into the trap of that general advice and think that one size fits all. You're an athlete with personal goals, personal plans, and things that you respond to better and worse on an individual level. Make sure you're taking that into consideration. If we had to boil this video down into a little nutshell, bite-sized piece, what would it be? Well, first of all, it would be make sure you combine the 2 factors of your training, the speed and the endurance, and take consideration for what you need as an individual athlete. As I said, if you need guidance or help with structuring that training program for whatever event it is that you're training for, hit that coaching link in the tab below. We'll line up a Zoom call if you like to make sure that we find out whether we're a good fit for each other. And from there, we'll gradually take steps towards getting you running further and faster with a unique and individualized approach to the training program. For now, any questions or comments, let us know in the comment section below. Like this video if it was helpful. Make sure you subscribe. Got new videos coming out every single week. And if you haven't already, go and check out the Relaxed Running podcast, where we catch up with the best athletes, coaches, and those in and around the sport that the world of distance running has to offer.